I stared at the screen on my phone, reading the email for the third time. The words didn't make any more sense than they had the first two times. Your business banking access has been updated per your request. As co-owner, you no longer have signatory authority. Please contact us if this is in error. I hadn't requested anything. I refreshed my banking app. Account access denied. My hands started shaking. I'd built Riverside Marketing Solutions from nothing. 3 years ago, my best friend since college, Michelle, and I had quit our corporate jobs on the same day. We'd celebrated with cheap champagne and expensive dreams. We'd filed the LLC paperwork together, signed the operating agreement at our kitchen table, opened the business bank account with our combined savings of $12,000. Now I couldn't even see our balance. I called Michelle. Straight to voicemail. I texted her. Nothing. I tried the office line. It rang and rang. At 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, someone should have been there. I grabbed my keys and drove to our office, a modest suite in a converted warehouse downtown. My key card worked on the main building entrance. But when I got to our suite, my card beeped red. Access denied. Through the glass door, I could see Michelle at her desk. She looked up, saw me, and her face went completely blank. Then she stood up and walked to the door. But she didn't open it. Michelle, what's going on? My card isn't working. I'm sorry, Kate. Her voice was muffled through the glass. You're no longer part of the company. What are you talking about? I'm a co-owner. I founded this with you. Not according to the state records. I filed an amendment to the operating agreement last month. You're no longer listed as a member of the LLC. My brain couldn't process what she was saying. You can't just remove me. That's not how this works. I had your signature. Everything's legal. She wouldn't meet my eyes. You should talk to a lawyer if you have questions. Michelle, we've been friends for 15 years. What is happening? Things change, Kate. The business outgrew the partnership structure. This is just business. She walked back to her desk and sat down, turning her back to me. I stood there in the hallway for a full minute, waiting for her to turn around, to laugh, to tell me this was some kind of awful joke. She didn't move. I drove home in a daze. When I got there, I tore through my files until I found my copy of our operating agreement. I read every word. Any amendment required both owners' signatures, notarized, filed with the state. I definitely hadn't signed anything. I called 3 lawyers before I found one who'd see me that afternoon. His name was David Chen, and his office smelled like old books and coffee. Walk me through everything, he said, pen ready. I told him about the email, the locked door, Michelle's words. I showed him my copy of the operating agreement, my business formation documents, everything I had. He listened quietly, taking notes. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. First thing we do is pull the records from the Secretary of State. If she filed an amendment removing you, it'll be there. If she forged your signature, that's identity fraud and potentially criminal. She wouldn't forge my signature. We're friends. We're friends. Kate, she locked you out of your own business. Someone willing to do that is capable of a lot of things. He submitted the request electronically while I sat there. The Secretary of State's business records were public, searchable online. Within minutes, he had the documents on his screen. Here's the amendment she filed. He turned the monitor so I could see. Dated November 15th. Filed November 18th. It states that Kate Brennan voluntarily withdraws as a member and transfers all ownership interest to Michelle Voss for a sum of $1 and other good consideration. I never signed this. November 15th. I was out of town at my sister's wedding in Colorado. I have plane tickets, hotel receipts, 100 photos. David zoomed in on the signature line. This is supposed to be your signature, notarized by... He squinted at the screen. Amy Patterson, Notary Public. Commission number 8847392, Cook County, Illinois. We're in Wisconsin. Exactly. He made a note. An Illinois notary can notarize documents in Illinois, but this claims you signed it here in Madison. Let me check something. He pulled up another database and typed in the notary information. His eyebrows went up. The commission number exists, but it belongs to an Amy Patterson in Springfield, Illinois. And here's the interesting part. Her commission expired in September, 2 months before this document was supposedly notarized. So it's fake. It's fake and sloppy. He printed the documents. Michelle either forged this herself or paid someone who didn't know what they were doing. We're going to file a police report, and then we're going to file an emergency motion to freeze the business accounts and restore your access. How long will that take? The police report, we can do today. The court motion, I can file tomorrow morning. We'll ask for an expedited hearing given the circumstances. With luck, we're in front of a judge by Friday. That's 3 days. What if she empties the accounts? That's why I'm filing the freeze request tonight. The judge can issue a temporary restraining order without her present if there's evidence of fraud and imminent harm. He started typing, and I sat there feeling like I was watching my life through someone else's eyes. This morning, I'd been a business owner. Now I was a victim of fraud, and the person who'd done it was someone I'd trusted more than almost anyone. Kate. David looked up from his computer. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Is there any reason Michelle would do this? Had you two been fighting? Were there money problems? No. I mean, we disagreed on stuff sometimes, but nothing major. The business was doing well. We landed 2 new corporate clients last quarter. We were talking about hiring another designer. Had Michelle's circumstances changed recently? Financial pressure? Personal issues? I thought about it. Her boyfriend moved in with her a few months ago. Tyler something. I only met him once. He seemed nice enough, but Michelle got really cagey about him. She used to tell me everything, but after he moved in, she just shut down. David wrote that down. Interesting. The timing might not be coincidental. You think he's involved? I think whenever someone suddenly commits fraud against their business partner, we look at who's influencing them. But right now, let's focus on the evidence. He filed the emergency motion while I waited, then printed everything out for me. We walked to the police station together. The officer who took my report was a woman in her 40s named Detective Sarah Martinez. She listened to everything, looked at all the documents, and her expression got progressively more serious. This isn't just civil fraud, she said. This is identity theft, forgery, potentially wire fraud if she transferred any money. I'm going to open a criminal investigation. What does that mean? It means I'm going to get warrants for the business bank accounts, the Secretary of State filing records, any email correspondence between Miss Voss and this notary. I'm going to interview Miss Voss and anyone else involved. And if we find what I think we're going to find, the DA's office will file charges. How long does that take? The investigation? Could be weeks. But I can execute a search warrant on the business premises within 24 hours if your lawyer gets that TRO. She looked at David. You filing emergency? Already done. Hearing set for 9 a.m. Friday. Good. I'll plan to be there. We left the police station, and David walked me to my car. Go home. Try to eat something, get some rest. I know that's almost impossible, but you need to take care of yourself. This is a marathon, not a sprint. David, what if the judge doesn't believe me? Kate, you have an airtight alibi for the date of the supposed signing, a notary seal that's expired and from the wrong state, and business formation documents proving you're a co-owner. Michelle has a forged signature and some very poor planning skills. The judge is going to believe you. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Michelle, about the day we decided to quit our jobs, about late nights building client pitches, celebrating our first big contract, commiserating over difficult clients, about our toast at my birthday dinner last year. To Kate, the best business partner and friend I could ask for. What had changed? Friday morning, I put on my best suit and met David at the courthouse. Michelle was already there with her own lawyer, a man in an expensive suit who looked annoyed to be there. When Michelle saw me, she looked away quickly. The judge was a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Howard. She read through the motions, looked at the evidence, and then looked at Michelle. Miss Voss, did you file an amendment to your LLC operating agreement removing Kate Brennan as a member? Michelle's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client exercised her rights under the operating agreement to restructure the business. I didn't ask about her rights. I asked if she filed the amendment. Yes or no? Yes, Your Honor. And did Miss Brennan sign this amendment willingly? Michelle hesitated. Her lawyer whispered something to her. She signed it, Your Honor. When? November 15th. David stood up. Your Honor, if I may present evidence that Miss Brennan was in Colorado on November 15th, he handed a folder to the bailiff. Plane tickets, hotel reservation, credit card receipts, and photographs with timestamps showing Miss Brennan at her sister's wedding in Denver on that date. Judge Howard flipped through the documents. Her expression hardened. Miss Voss, did you forge Miss Brennan's signature on this document? Michelle's lawyer stood quickly. Your Honor, we'd like to request a continuance to review this evidence. That's not what I asked. Miss Voss, look at me. Michelle finally looked up. Her face was pale. Tyler said it was legal. He said as long as we had a signature, it didn't matter. Who's Tyler? My boyfriend. He works in finance. He said this was just business, that Kate would understand eventually. So you're admitting you forged your business partner's signature, used an expired notary seal, and filed false documents with the state? Michelle started crying. Her lawyer put his hand on her arm, but she shook her head. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Kate. Tyler said we could make so much more money without splitting everything. He said you were holding the business back. He had all these ideas for expansion, but we needed full control. Judge Howard's voice was ice. Miss Voss, I'm granting the emergency motion. Business accounts are frozen immediately. Miss Brennan's access is restored. The Secretary of State will be notified that the amendment filed on November 18th was fraudulent. Detective Martinez, I understand you're here? Detective Martinez stood up from the back of the courtroom. Yes, Your Honor. Take Miss Voss into custody. I'm referring this matter to the DA for prosecution. Everything happened very fast after that. Detective Martinez read Michelle her rights while Michelle sobbed. Her lawyer argued ineffectively. 2 more officers appeared to escort Michelle out. As they walked past me, Michelle looked at me with red, swollen eyes. Kate, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hurt you. Tyler just kept saying, Ma'am, please don't say anything else. Detective Martinez interrupted gently but firmly. They took her away. Judge Howard looked at me. Miss Brennan, you'll have full access to your business accounts within the hour. I'm ordering a complete audit of all business finances from the date of the fraudulent filing to present. If there are any unauthorized transfers or expenditures, those will be part of the criminal case. Thank you, Your Honor. I'm sorry this happened to you. Unfortunately, I see cases like this more often than I'd like. Someone gets in their ear, convinces them that fraud is easier than honest dealing. It never ends well. Outside the courthouse, David and I stood on the steps in the cold November sun. What happens now? I asked. The DA will prosecute. Given that she confessed in open court, she'll likely take a plea deal. She's looking at identity theft, forgery, fraud charges, probably probation, restitution, community service, and possibly some jail time, depending on the DA's mood and her criminal history. She doesn't have one. She's never even gotten a speeding ticket. That'll help her in sentencing. But Kate, you need to make a decision about the business. Do you want to continue working with her? She tried to steal my company. I know. But legally, she's still a co-owner until you formally dissolve the partnership or buy her out. Given the circumstances, I'd recommend you file to dissolve the LLC and start fresh. 3 years of work. The client relationships are yours. The reputation is yours. The name might be compromised, but you can rebuild under a new name. And frankly, after this is public, your clients will probably be sympathetic. They'll want to support you. He was right. Over the next week, I met with all our clients personally. I explained what had happened, assured them I was still available to handle their accounts, and gave them the option to stay or go. Every single one stayed. Detective Martinez called me 2 weeks later. We executed a search warrant on the business and Michelle's apartment. Found some interesting things. Like what? Like correspondence between Michelle and Tyler planning this going back 3 months? Like a forged notary seal kit ordered from some shady website? Like bank transfer records showing Michelle moved $40,000 from the business account to a personal account she and Tyler opened together the day after the fraudulent filing. $40,000. That's almost a third of our operating capital. I know. The DA's adding embezzlement to the charges. Tyler's being charged as an accomplice. He's the one who bought the notary kit, coached Michelle on how to file the paperwork, and convinced her this was legal. Is he in custody? Not yet. He's in the wind. Hasn't been to work. Hasn't been home. We have a warrant out for him. They found Tyler 4 days later trying to board a flight to Mexico with $15,000 in cash. That money was recovered and returned to the business account. Tyler was charged with fraud, conspiracy, and attempted flight to avoid prosecution. The DA offered Michelle a plea deal in January. She pled guilty to identity theft, forgery, and embezzlement. In exchange for her cooperation and full restitution, she got 3 years probation, 500 hours community service, and a permanent criminal record. Tyler didn't take a deal. He went to trial and was convicted. He got 2 years in federal prison. I dissolved Riverside Marketing Solutions in February and started a new company, Brennan Creative Agency. Most of our old clients came with me. I hired 2 new people, including a forensic accountant to review every penny that comes in or goes out. Michelle sent me a letter from her lawyer in March. It was an apology, long and rambling, trying to explain how Tyler had manipulated her, how she'd gotten caught up in his schemes, how she knew she'd destroyed our friendship and regretted it every day. I read it once and put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'll forgive her, but that day isn't today. What I learned is that people can surprise you in terrible ways. Someone you trust completely can look you in the eye and lie. Someone you've known for 15 years can forge your signature and steal your business. But I also learned that systems work, that paper trails matter, that an expired notary seal and sloppy forgery can be caught, that judges and detectives and lawyers can see through lies to the truth. And I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. When Michelle locked me out of my own business, I could have given up. I could have walked away, found a job, gone back to corporate life. Instead, I fought. I gathered evidence, hired a lawyer, went to court, and got my business back. She took $40,000, 3 months of my life, and a friendship I'd valued more than almost anything. But she didn't take my ability to rebuild. She didn't take my reputation or my client relationships or my determination. The business is thriving now. Revenue is up 30% from last year. I'm looking at office space in a better building. I'm hiring a third employee next month. And every time I sign a document, I think about how easy it would have been for Michelle to get away with it if she'd used a valid notary, if she'd forged my signature on a day I wasn't provably elsewhere, if she'd been just a little bit smarter about covering her tracks. But she wasn't, and the systems caught her. And justice, slow and imperfect as it is, worked. I tell this story to other business owners now. Whenever I get the chance, check your Secretary of State records regularly. Know what documents have been filed in your company's name. Trust your partners, but verify. Keep copies of everything. And if something feels wrong, don't ignore it. Because fraud doesn't just happen in dramatic movies or to careless people. It happens to trusting friends who build businesses together. It happens when someone you love gets a new partner who sees opportunity in betrayal. It happens when people convince themselves that a signature on paper doesn't matter as much as their own ambitions. But it can be stopped. It can be proven. And the people who commit it can face consequences. Michelle's probation ends in 2 more years. Tyler gets out of federal prison in 18 months. I'll probably never speak to either of them again. But I'm still here. My business is still growing. And I'm still signing documents with my own hand, in my own name, building something real and honest and mine. That's the part they couldn't steal. That's the part that matters.